That self-critical voice in your head was never yours, and it was never God's either. By the end of this episode, you're going to be able to tell the difference between the voice of truth, the voice of reason, the voice of love, the voice that comes from your own heart, the voice that comes from God, and the other voices, the voices of chatter, of self-criticism, of self-deprecation, of confusion, of anger, of fear that might be running through your mind that were never yours and never deserved your full attention and your full belief. This is extremely important. Once you can recognize the difference in the voices, you can choose which ones to listen to. You can see the voice of confusion, the voice of fear, the voice of anger, and you can hear it and recognize the texture and notice that it is different than the voice of truth, that it is different from the voice of your heart. And it becomes so much easier to ignore whatever invitation that voice that is contractionary is offering you. So today we're going to lean on the teachings from the book of Kings to support us in this revelation. And we're going to download some real learnings from the Bible, the greatest book on spiritual awakening that was ever created, to teach us just how to notice when the voice of truth is present with us. This is one of those things in life that comes through felt experience. Coming into the voice of truth is a daily practice. It's a practice of meditation, really. The key thing we're going to need to lean on day in and day out is developing a deeper resonance and felt sense of what truth really feels like. Because the world is busy, the world is loud, and the brain is basically a repository of information. So every single thing we've ever been exposed to or experienced is within our minds until it has a chance to come out and be seen. I had the direct felt experience of this wisdom of the mind over the course of the 6 months that I spent living at Hridaya Yoga in the ashram. There, I spent over 60 days in silent meditation, and I was able to study the way the mind works. And what I noticed is whatever I was doing the prior days, whatever conversations I had, those would run through my mind the next day. And as soon as they had a chance to be seen and be felt, they were no longer in the mind. The mind would clear the space and get rid of them. And this is the way the mind works with everything we're exposed to. If we watch a TV show, the mind loops on it a little bit the next day. If we're exposed to a conversation with somebody, the mind holds on to it. And usually these things pass through pretty quickly. We just get a little bit of a repetition and then it's gone. But when there's an emotional charge, which a self-critical voice can bring, or something that's deprecating, or something that's destructive, those usually come with an emotional charge of shame or guilt or self-pity, anger, fear. And these are typically passed down generationally or through our relations in school, our peer group, whatever it may be, but we pick them up at a young age. And this voice that then sticks with us throughout our lives because we haven't been able to feel the full resonance of the emotion that's tied to it was never ours. It's not our voice. And if you notice the texture at which it comes in, it's often a little bit rushed. It comes with an intense level of emotion sometimes. It can come with fear, it can come with shame, it can come with guilt, it can come with anger, and it can come with a judgment that tells us we should be doing something in a way that's different than what we're currently doing, what we're currently experiencing. And this is so much different than the felt sense of truth. Truth comes in as a light, as something soft, as something peaceful. And we can see just that. We can see that in the Bible here, the book of Kings. We're going to reference it now, as we always do here on the Call of the Heart. We're going to reference the first book of Kings today, chapter 19, verses 11 through 13. And here we're going to go to the word, again, not as doctrine, but as a reference to the greatest. It's the greatest book on spiritual awakening that can really point us towards a better way to live. And today we learn how to hear truth. At that moment, the Lord passed by. A great and mighty wind was tearing the mountains and was shattering the cliffs before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake, there was a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, there was a voice, a soft whisper. When Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood in the entrance to the cave. Suddenly a voice came to him and said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" So here we see the wind, we see the earthquake, we see the fire. All of these things are like the chaotic emotions and thoughts that might be moving through that are not from a resonance of truth. They call our attention, they're loud, they pull us in, and they want, they try to convince us that they're important, that we should pay attention. But in fact, they are not from truth. They are not from our hearts. They are not from God. Because we notice here in the passage, when God comes in, he comes in with a soft whisper. And this is how the voice of truth works. It might be hard to distinguish because it is such a soft whisper. And many of us have never sat in enough spiritual practice to actually get past all of the chaos of the wind, of the earthquake, and of the fire. Because all of that needs to move through in order for the voice of truth and the voice of reason to have space to come in. So the things to lean on in order to make space for that are the spiritual practices that bring us back to stillness and back to silence. And as you do this, as you sit in these practices, the meditation, the yoga, the prayer, thoughts will surface, emotions will surface, but this is just a clearing of the repository to make room for stillness. And when stillness is there, the voice of God can come in and it will just pop in this beautiful, soothing, calm, short sentence, a piece of guidance, guiding you down the right path of what your next step is. So if there's a self-critical voice, if there's something self-deprecating, it's not yours, it's not God. It's picked up from earlier in life, and it's not something that you need to listen to. And in fact, you should not listen to it. Let it go, observe it, release it, bring yourself back to silence, back to stillness, and allow the whispers of God to direct your actions. So thank you so much for listening today. I am Xander Sage. This is The Call of the Heart. If you'd like to have any other episodes that are related to this topic, please don't hesitate to send in a recommendation. Making new episodes every week, and I always like to take listeners' recommendations and hear about what struggles I can support with, or in the Word of God can support with. So many blessings, much love. Hope you have a wonderful day.